Welcome back to the NerdCast, Episode 2. Once again, my name is Dane, and this is
Justin.
Today's subject is going to be moral choice systems, and what place they have in games. What effect do they have on the player, and how they make you feel as you continue to progress.
Now, there are a lot of games that have started dealing with moral choice systems nowadays in games, and there have been... It seems like every game's really been trying to do it their own way. And today we are going to be looking at examples of it implemented well and implemented poorly. Now, before we get into this, I just want to say that here on the NerdCast, we talk about any and all games. So we're going to be talking about games you like, and we might be saying some bad things about them. Hell, we might be saying bad things about games we like. But I just want to let you know that it is perfectly okay to talk about the flaws of something you like. Turns out, you can still like it.
Getting into the whole moral choice systems, I feel like that now that we've come to a point where games are being seen as works of art and more emotional pieces, I, of course, agree very much with Adam Sessler's view that games are not as a bang for your buck, type deal. It is a body of work, and the whole body of work encompasses the ideas that the developers put forward. And moral choice system is another way of, just helping you reflect on the game's content, whether that be some kind of self-important, story-based ideas, or more of a cultural critique,
And it's also something that a lot of developers have in the past said they implement because they really want the player to feel invested in the game, and they really want to feel that the game is molding itself to the way the player wants to play it. There are some games that do this very well, and there are some games that not so much.
Yeah, not so much. But to start this off, I want to give an example of a very bad implementation of this system and why it is bad. One game that, had it as a big hallmark, as a choice-based system, was Mass Effect, and Justin will be able to talk very much in detail about this, but I'll keep the reins on him. But you had the choice between either Paragon choices or
Renegade.
And they were very clearly indicated. Blue is Paragon, and red is Renegade. And no one wants to be the bad guy. The only purpose of playing through the game again to be the bad guy was just to see the other content that was put in the game. And I really feel that makes the player kind of step back and realize that this is just a game. It's almost an immersion breaking tool.
It's not even almost an immersion breaking tool. It is an immersion breaking tool. Don't get me wrong, people watching out there. I freaking love me some Mass Effect. It's my favorite sci-fi game series that has ever been made. But the Paragon Renegade system does really have some inherent flaws in its execution.
Now onto the subject of what kind of works, and of course we'll be going more into detail into both of these, but just give you an overview. First is, I really don't have a game that works through and through. I mentioned in the last episode that one instance in Infamous, was truly what everyone was at, all these companies are advertising their games as freedom of choice, moral choice systems. But it really comes down to the moral ambiguity of it. You can't just have this is clearly the bad choice and this is clearly the good choice. In Mass Effect, it was clearly indicated through blue and red text, which was the bad one and which was the good one. So we'll begin this discussion with Infamous and how it's this awkward hybrid between having one of the best moral choice situations in, all of gaming so far. Opinion matter. But also how it had just a mixed bag of horrible decisions. And it just felt cookie cutter after this one staggering moment that just took you back and made you really kind of feel immersed inside the story. And that one moment is when your girlfriend gets killed. In the game, you have the choice where you are standing on top of a building and the villain has given you the option of either saving 9 doctors, and he very well sets up that they will be able to save hundreds of citizens, especially in this, biohazard-ridden area or save your one girlfriend. And it's this real kind of emotional tear between the two, but it's not even so much as in what you were deciding, but how you decided it. It wasn't a press button, head on path, finish mission kind of way. It was you went one direction or the other. It was very contextual based on, where the player was located when it started giving you the audio cues about your choice, and so I really feel that was very effective because say you chose the good route, there really was no good route. It was very ambiguous as to what was morally good. But when you went about the good route, you almost felt like you were just a few blocks down the road from your girlfriend. And it even gave you time to start running towards her after you save the doctors and you see her fall. The cutscene only added insult to injury when it was just a tear-filled moment. But the rest of the game was these awkward progress this way or progress this way. They both had the same outcome, but the way you did it was just, do you do it like a good guy or do you do it like a villain? I think the best case example is that when you were in the sewer level after trying to find this murdered woman's husband and he had to open a door for you. You had the choice of either telling him his wife was dead and consoling him about it so he would open the door, or frying him with your powers and then the door would just open.
That's not very good.
No, not at all. It didn't feel good. It's just, either way, it got the job done. But, I mean, of course, any right-minded individual is just going to go with the good route because why not? The only reason to go the bad route is to see the ending at the end. So...
And to get super cool red lightning powers, because red lightning is cooler than blue lightning.
Yeah, some of those... That's another thing that leads me to, is when moral choice systems lock players out of game content. I wanted some of those powers, The whole force lightning thing where, like, you just constantly spawned an AoE of lightning everywhere, and, that was only a villain power. And I wanted that. I didn't want to have to start killing hundreds of civilians just to get it. And I know Mass Effect did the same thing, right?
Yeah, actually, it did. And here's where my talk about Mass Effect begins.
Action.
Now, Mass Effect had the Paragon Renegade system, as we described earlier. And that system is affected by a number of factors. One thing the game did do very well was based on your character's background, it gave you bonuses in either Paragon or Renegade. Some kind of hidden stat values that the players don't know about, and that really works with developing your Shepard's personality. And I can understand that the way they did the Paragon and Renegade was that they wanted you to be like, oh, my Shepard is always trying to do the right thing, or, my Shepard will do whatever it takes to get the job done. But when you get that black and white about it, and don't get me wrong when I say black and white in that Renegade is evil, but it's still just two options. Like, the game does advertise very much that you can play it any way you want and make any decision you want, but is that really the case when there are points in the game where it will punish you for it?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, when you usually start on these games, especially including in Infamous, but I'm guessing also the same way in Mass Effect, there was never a 50-50, of the choices, or at least 70-30, like you were either all good or all bad. There was never a point where you were just like, well, I feel like there's some kind of obligation to choose the bad choice.
Actually, there's plenty of those in Mass Effect.
Really?
Like, there's lots and lots of moral ambiguity in Mass Effect, but all of that moral ambiguity and all that is sort of destroyed by the Paragon Renegade system. Probably the best example of this is there's a character called Legion in Mass Effect 2, and he is a member of the Geth, the synthetic race that was enemies in Mass Effect 1, but that's only because they were being controlled by the antagonists, the Reapers. And Legion tells Commander Shepard that he has found an outpost of those evil Geth, like their big homeworld. So he takes Shepard there so they can find some way to deal with this problem. And you get to this console near the end, and Legion offers you a choice. He says you can either destroy all of the Geth platforms so that the Geth programs can never upload into them and get off the station, or you can choose to completely rewrite the data of the Geth so that they agree with your philosophies. And, that's kind of troubling, because with the way Reaper indoctrination works, it's the Reapers use, mental subversion and stuff like that to bring you over to thinking, oh, by helping them, I'm actually doing the right thing. And that's kind of a thing you do with the Geth on a more programming level. And it had this great opportunity for you to be like, well, is essentially indoctrinating the Geth to fight for me? Am I any better than the Reapers? The player really had a chance to think about that, but that's completely destroyed when the game presents you the choices, and it clearly says that overwriting the Geth is a paragon option, and destroying the Geth is the renegade option.
That seems counterintuitive. That would really break the immersion into it, and heck, why I love most of the sci-fi that I love, especially in Star Trek, that it had this very objectional kind of almost soapboxy style of saying, do we have the place of doing these things? Is this my position? Or, and it's a very good way of kind of dissecting our current cultural norms and the like, and to just throw it away by the developer pushing on you this is the bad option, this is the good option.
The real big thing with the whole Paragon Renegade system is it does that thing we talk about at times of locking you out of player content. In Mass Effect 2, there always come sections after you get 2 squad members loyal, where squad members like Miranda and Jack, who constantly butt heads, and then Legion and Tally, they get into an argument in front of you, and you as Shepard can defuse the argument. And you can either side with them, or you can break up the argument with a Paragon or Renegade decision that will stop the argument. If you do not have enough Paragon or Renegade to stop the argument, then you are forced to side with one of the crew members, even if you didn't want to, and then the crew member you didn't side with is no longer loyal to Shepard, and loyalty means a lot in Mass Effect 2. If a squad member is not loyal to you, they will die on the final mission, most likely. Now, there are some ways to circumvent that, but they're kind of difficult and require reading ahead. You can later talk to the party member, and you can get them to be loyal to you again, but that also requires a Paragon or Renegade option. And it's really unfortunate that these kinds of things are being presented to the player, because if you end up happening to play a game where you're like, well, I want to play the game my way, and your decisions that you personally made and personally felt were the best ones do not line up enough with the percentages of Paragon or Renegade you would need to get through these moments and several other moments, well then the game's just like, sorry, you played me wrong, and this person now has to die because of it.
That's never a good feeling. Especially, I feel like a game as big as Mass Effect, there was at least one developer, probably sitting in the very back of the room, who no one heard him when he said, how about a neutral option? Say when people are arguing, did you say that there was you could have just broken up the fight and not sided with anyone?
You can, but it requires a Paragon score or a Renegade score that is sufficiently high enough. You either stop the argument with diplomacy, or you crack down hard on your crewmates and tell them to stop fighting.
That's the inherent flaw with these systems, is that they progress as the game developers intended them to.
Now, we've been giving you all these examples of games that have implemented this poorly, and you might be thinking, well, do you have any examples of this being done well, or what do you think we can do to change the problem? And yes, we do. Dane's going to go first, and then I will be right after.
Well, my solution to the problem isn't so much as getting rid of the moral choice system, because, as I said, with the whole Infamous thing, that was a very, very good implementation of it, and I feel like there's more. We just don't have the time to cover them all. But one game that recently had it wasn't necessarily a moral choice system, but the actions that it forced you to do were morally ambiguous, especially within the context of the game, and the game was Spec Ops: The Line. By most accounts, just a generic third-person action game where you're just shooting the targets, going from Point Alpha to Point Bravo, saving Team Charlie, commencing Operation Delta. Same old run-of-the-mill. But then it started really getting into and started chipping away at the mental stability of your character.
It was, initially a game about killing, but then very much became a game about killing.
Yeah, the focus shifted from killing the enemy to you're a horrible scumbag for wanting these people to die. And in many cases, it was actually calling the player a scumbag. And this is also problematic, not because of how bad it made us all feel or how it hurt our feelings, but you have to keep in mind that the game wasn't allowing you an option to call in your evac and leave and just end the progress of the game there. It kept forcing you through. But the actions were still almost theatrically displayed in such a way that you had no idea what you're doing until it started revealing them. One particular mission, and of course, spoilers abound for anyone watching this video, but it had you target a group of what you thought were enemies with and this is a very big thing, especially with everyone railing on Obama for using drones and such like that, but you used a radio-guided missile to bomb a group of people. And then as you're walking through the valley and you find where your bomb hit, you see nothing but civilians. Dead children, babies, everywhere. It was horrifying. And it was really the revealing moment when your squad mates had almost kind of revealed that they were telling you not to. And it was just this breakdown of everything the game had told you was almost a lie. That your character wasn't really sane, and he's progressing either through heat stress or just other mental instability issues that come from just being a operator in some kind of foreign area like that. But it hit hard.
There's another game that really hits hard with a lot of its moral choices, and I believe this is a game that everyone should play and that no one should really have a reason not to, is Telltale Games' critically acclaimed The Walking Dead.
I heard that was a pretty good one.
The Walking Dead was absolutely phenomenal. It was easily my game of the year for last year, and the way The Walking Dead presented its choices, I don't think there was a single choice in that game that a person could categorize as good or bad. There were plenty of situations where, for example, there were two characters, especially at the end of episode 1, spoilers abound. There's two characters named Carly, and I actually forget the other character's name because I didn't save him, but
he was that forgettable to you.
Well, no, he was very important because he was the tech guy, and he was a bigger guy,
let's not ruin the spoilers completely because I still want to play this.
Well,
game, so.
he was very good with tech, and then there was Carly, who was a reporter and all of that, and she was your crack shot. And when zombies are getting into where you are, you end up being presented with this choice: well, save Carly or save him. And if you go ahead and decide to save Carly, everyone in your group starts to question your decision. Did you save her because she had the gun? Did you save her because she was a woman? Why did you pick her and not him? Doug was his name. Why'd you pick Carly and not Doug? And the game actually forces you to think, why did I pick Carly? Why did I pick Doug?
I feel like that's a very, very, very important transition, especially coming from the source material of The Walking Dead, as a constant criticism on why do we make these decisions? Are these our decisions to make? And for that to translate so well over into the game is just good job, Telltale.
Yeah, great work, guys. Seriously, over the course of the game, I realized that, no, this is not my decision to make, but I'm the one that has to make it. And I was constantly struggling with why I would make those decisions. And just, bravo, guys. If you care about story in games, please play The Walking Dead. That's enough of my plug, but I thought it was a good example.
All right, and one thing I'd like to say in conclusion, especially because of all the incidents that are happening lately, especially with Aliens, Colonial Marines, and SimCity and the like, is I see a lot of even my favorite gaming personalities really jumping on games like this is back. And, of course, I will agree, I don't like Aliens Colonial Marines. I think it's a buggy piece of crap. I don't feel that the developers really put much time into that. But much to what we said in the beginning of the podcast, and I think what was a really surreal moment for me is when I went home this weekend, the main reason why this podcast is a little bit late, and my brother had rented Aliens Colonial Marines. And you know what? He enjoyed it. He had fun with it. And I kind of had to take a step back because I was so staggered with all these gameplay decisions and that were just horrible bugs and all that abound. He enjoyed it. So what I'd really like to say, and especially to, I can vouch for SimCity and how good the quality of the actual game is, while you may hear reviews that slam on something and, this is, the death of the gaming industry if people continue to support things like this, try it for yourself.
Remember, first-hand experience is always better than hearsay. So at least try something before you try to make a damning judgment on it. Next week, spring break happens, so Dane and I will be both back where we live, which is fairly far away, but we really want to be serious about this and make sure we start putting out stuff definitely on time, definitely every week. So we are going to try and have something for you, if you'll forgive us for maybe audio quality not being as good, which actually we hope the audio quality and sound quality and all that was a lot better in this episode. Special shout out to Kate Price for letting us use her mic. It's a lovely little thing.
Kate, you're beautiful, and thank you.
Excellent. But we're going to definitely try and have something for you this weekend, and then coming next weekend we can actually sit down and do this again. We are going to be having a whole episode on what Dane just talked about, hype, and how whether or not that might be a good thing or bad thing in the gaming industry, and how it can radically skew people's opinions.
So that's us from the NerdCast signing off.
Have a good night.